Hey guys, David Pingree. We're out here today at Milestone Raceway to introduce the 2019 RM-Z450. Suzuki came out with this all-new bike in 2018, and it was a little disappointing, I'm not going to lie to you. Looked amazing. Sitting on the stand, I was so psyched to go try this thing, and on the track, it was a little bit tough, you know. The suspension was probably the biggest issue last year. Couldn't get the thing to balance. It was very stink bug, and you had to push the forks all the way down the clamps and really add a bunch of sag to the back to try to balance it. And as a result, it was just tough to make it work in stock trim. For our garage build last year, we had Pro Circuit help with the suspension. We threw a high compression piston and exhaust on this thing, and it brought this bike to life. After we did those simple things, we spent a day out here with Bones on the suspension. It's like night and day. That thing was great. So, did they make changes for 2019 to fix that? No, they did not. The engine is unchanged, and it wasn't a bad engine. It's just a little soft compared to all of its other competitors. And the suspension, they did make one change. They went to a softer shock spring, which should help the balance, right? So we'll see how that works out today. There's a change inside the fork to the way the clickers work. It's very, very minor. I don't expect that to be super different. Will that spring rate be enough to balance this thing out? We'll find out. It's a little bit of a bummer that they didn't come in with electric start, cut a little bit of weight, bring the power up a little bit on this thing. I mean, I'm expecting that to happen in the next year or two. Of course, that's completely unfounded. I just hope that happens. They need to do that. But like I said, this isn't far off from being very competitive. Still turns better than any other bike out there. But like I said, with a piston and exhaust and good suspension settings, it was great. It's as competitive, it's as good a performing bike as any. So they're not far off, but they're off. How will this bike do? Let's go get it on the track and find out. We're going to focus on this suspension and see if we can make this thing work today in stock trim. All right, our first feedback on the 2019 RM-Z450, very similar to the 2018 RM-Z450. The suspension changes they made helped slightly, but it still has some demons in the way this thing handles. Still, it's more balanced now, but in order to get my sag number, my spring is loose. I mean, it's just about to vibrate in there. So if you weigh anything lighter than 170 pounds, you're not going to get the right sag number. I'm at 108. 105 to 110 is kind of the area that you want to be, depending on how you want the bike to feel. So again, if you're lighter than 170, you're going to have to go even softer on the spring rate. There's some other things we can do to get this right. We'll dive into that in our dialed in. But my initial feedback on this thing, the motor is fun, great throttle response, really good pickup out of turns, just kind of starts to go flat from the middle over up to the top end. Still a fun engine to ride, just a little soft compared to its competition. Suspension's got some issues. The fork feels like it's too divey, so but it's still giving you feedback on little chop. So if you try to soften it to fix that little chop, now it's diving even more. So it's the feel of the bike, as many character flaws as it might have, it's still a really fun bike to ride. It corners like crazy, and in the air, the thing just feels like it's part of you. You know, you just feel so comfortable moving the thing around, changing directions. It makes it really fun to ride. And as I mentioned last year, we did a piston, an exhaust, and suspension setting, and man, it was like one of my favorite bikes from last year once it was finished up. So I wish Suzuki could hit that mark right out of the box. They don't, but it's not far off. So don't let this stuff scare you away. If you're somebody that gets your suspension set up for you anyway, don't worry about it. You can make this stuff work. It just doesn't work great out of the box. The engine is like literally a piston or an exhaust away from being great. So And if you're a novice, beginner, vet rider, this is plenty of motor, I promise you. We're splitting hairs when we start talking about it being slower than other bikes. So don't let that freak you out. Probably one of the better brakes in the whole class. Great front brake power on this thing. Clutch action's good. I kind of feel like I'm over here rubbing two sticks together to make fire by kick starting it. It's time for these guys to go electric start. Everybody else has, but it's not that big a deal. All in all, good motorcycle with some very, very minor changes can be a great motorcycle. So let's hope they tweak those up for 2020. In the meantime, these are available at your local dealers, and if you're somebody that's a Suzuki guy, this thing can be a machine, a weapon, with just a few simple fixes. And we're gonna help you out in our next dialed in video. Look for that shortly. We'll get you a good starting point for these. All right, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.